I'm really excited for today's episode. So, Luka Nation, ladies and gentlemen of our community, we have a really special guest here today. He's a true hobbyist. I mean, that's the only way to say it. It's John, the basketball or card guy, and I mean, I don't think anyone out there listening doesn't know who John is. It's just that simple. John is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the hobby. There's so much we're going to talk about today. From raw cards to how John's never graded a card, which I'm so curious about. I don't even know. I want to start there, but I'm not going to. And John's worked with media. There's so much here today. But before we get into that, Card Collector 2, someone we had on our show the other day, had an awesome post. And it was, you have to pick 3 movies from this list. Friday Night Lights were on that list. Remember the Titans, Space Jam, Coach Carter, Miracle. John picked Rudy 3 times. Explain yourself, my man.
Well, part of that was a joke because it's Rudy, 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 right? So I just figured I was chanting within it. kind of a pull, but I don't know. For some reason, I can watch that movie over and over again. It doesn't get too old. I don't feel like, I don't know. I'm a person that I can't watch a sad film 100 times, but I can watch a happy film over and over again. I don't know if you guys are that way too. So that one, I just feel like there's a continual, it just gets better and better as you go, and you're rooting for the guy. I don't know. I love that.
Listen, I'm with you, man. Somebody paid $81,000 for the wrong Rock rookie card because Rudy's got the real Rock in it. It's got Rock, like the Rock before the Rock.
Yeah.
So you get me a rookie card of that guy, I'm buying it. Andrew has no idea what I'm talking about.
No, explain yourself.
So there was a TV show called Rock. And the co-star of Dan Rudiger, played by Sean Astin, however you say that guy's name, was Rock from the TV show Rock. Not The Rock, not Young Rock.
Not The Rock.
Just Rock, like ROC. He plays, the friend of Rudy who, gave him a job and, kind of put him up, gave him a place to stay, in the field house. And, he came to the game to watch Rudy play at the end, So anyway, that's
Sean Astin's been doing. He's been doing a whole series of like autograph signings now. You can see him. They have these shows outside of sports. I haven't actually been to one yet, but there's a bunch of these shows. They call them like Wizard Cons or other things where they have these conventions around like the gaming cards and the non-sport stuff. And so people like someone like him, you can go with like a football item or something and get him to sign it at one of these other things where everyone's going there with like Lord of the Rings, something or other, like to get it
I love
signed.
the tangentially sports guys like him signing a Rudy thing. I went to one in Long Island here where all of the cast of The Sandlot, all the kids showed up to
Brought him back.
And the pricing for those guys, it's amazing, right? So I have a friend, I have a Babe Ruth ball, an autographed Babe Ruth ball. My friend's like, what you should do? You should bring that ball. And I'll show it to the Sandlot kids, and I'm like, let them play baseball with it, see if there's a dog around.
See a dog will grab it.
Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I'm bring that. But the price list was amazing. It's like you can get a picture with the whole team, you can get an autograph with one. You just want Squints. He's less money. You want this guy. But the best thing was if you pay, they'll have a catch with you.
Catch with you, yeah.
Right,
so one of my friends for years now is Thomas Ian Nicholas. And he's Rookie of the Year. So if you remember that film, Rookie of the Year. He's also was in the American Pie films and stuff.
Breaks his arm, right? And he throws it in from the outfield.
We talk about all that kind of stuff. So he does a lot of those shows now on that circuit as well. But I think it's amazing. It's the nostalgia factor that's coming back. Like we're thinking Sandlot was a great film too. I could watch that for forever and a half. But like it's just that it brings it back and being able to, it's not even meeting the guys, but it's about creating some cool memorabilia or a memory. Like, it is pretty cool to say I had catch with the Sandlot kids. I don't know. It's cool. I thought it was a great idea.
Rookie of the Year, man. When the American Pie came out, that was the only one I knew. Those guys all big. I was like, oh, the kid from he broke his arm. The one who throws the ball really fast. I know that kid. That was the only one I ever heard of.
Oh, he's great too. Thomas is awesome. He's a musician now too, actually. So he does a weekly residence online every Sunday night. Playing music but he's still an actor. He's doing a lot of movies and things. It's just fascinating to see where people end up over time.
So John, this is the part of the episode where Andrew is regretting he let off with movies.
Not at all, man. I think 28 years ago today, Sandlot was released as well. So it's kind of like an anniversary. So it's right on topic. But what I'm passionate about is I love to see people in the hobby who are collectors, but at the same time are actually kind of making a living outside of just investing in cards in the hobby. There's just joy from them, you know? I think we're all looking for joy. And John, I mean, you're the blueprint for figuring out how to do that. So I'm curious, your story, you know, how'd you find yourself here?
Yeah, so I mean, I was a collector like many of us were back when I was a kid. My first retail job ever was in a card store. I was 14 years old and, you know, working in a store in Mount Kisco, New York, in Westchester County, New York, and ended up managing that store by the time I was 15. It was closing it up at night. It was in a small mall, like an indoor mall, not like a strip mall, like a kind of regular mall. And I never took home a paycheck. It was just like, I wanted to buy packs. Like it was like any money I made went right into cards. And so it was fun, you know, got to meet a lot of collectors, got used to going to the big shows in White Plains, New York was our biggest one here. I'm sure Cage, I'm sure you know the show, like,
been there.
And that, you know, there was a Gloria Rothstein show back in the day. And there's a different promoter now that does it.
JPRS or whatever. Right?
Yeah,
JPR,
exactly.
Something like that,
Yep.
JPR shows.
Yep.
But last time I went two years ago, last time I was there, because they didn't have it last year, just so that everybody knows how the hobby has come, I bought a retail box of 18 Prism for $100 at the show.
Well, that was a going rate, right? Like, everything has changed. But so when I was a kid getting into it, I opened a ton of packs. I spent every cent I had on cards. I collected Jordan and Kobe were my two collections at the time. You know, and I never sold them. Like I held on to them. And so coming to the future, I went to college. I got out of college. I graduated from college in 2003. And was broke, so I didn't get into collecting, back into buying the cards then. So I totally missed out on LeBron. That's like when people come to my website or they see my profile, they're like, "You don't have any LeBron? Do you not like LeBron?" And I'm like, "It's not that I don't like him. It's the fact that I just didn't collect on his rookie year, and then so I just never I haven't really gone back and collected it since. It was
John, your rookie year is LeBron's rookie year, so
right, exactly. Yeah, come back into that. Actually, I have a card now, for the folks that are on video. This is my new promotion that's going out. It's my exquisite. It's not exquisite. It's my excellent rookie autograph. So that's me in the card shop back when I was 15. You know, on what looks like an exquisite, you know, a rookie, and then that's me with my Jordan collection at the time, back in the day too. I do fun promos. What was that?
Two out of 96 numbered.
Yeah, I did 96 of them. So this is number 2. Yep. I'm giving them out. When people order something off my site or something, I toss in a fun card. When I see people, you know, that come up to the office or something, I give them a card. It's just fun. Or kids at shows, I give them out. Just fun stuff like that. But yeah, that's how I got into it originally, was how most people are. But I never really stopped collecting. I never sold off the collection. I just kept it. And then I'd say I got back into full gear by 2006.
So before you jump into the business side of it, the first question that I had on it, and this will take 30 seconds, then we can go back to your story, is maybe it's because you're a couple years younger than I am, and you graduated college a few years after me, and maybe it's because you started collecting in the 90s when you were working, and Kobe was huge and Jordan was huge at the time. It's not the baseball card guy. It's the basketball card guy. So before you jump into the business side of it here in the 06, why is it that you in the 90s weren't buying Griffey cards? What was it about basketball? Because I'll tell you, that's a huge thing. Because everybody I know who collected when we collected baseball cards. You know, we were collecting Bonds, we were collecting Griffey, and that stuff's not worth as much as Jordan and Kobe.
Yeah, and then that's not just the 90s that was the case. 3 years ago, that was still the case.
Correct.
So simply put, I liked watching basketball. I didn't enjoy watching baseball. And no offense to people who love baseball, but I liked the action of basketball, that there was constant scoring, that the game, you know, could change at any point. In the baseball game, it was a lot of waiting. And I just didn't enjoy watching as much. It's why I don't watch golf. It's just a lot of waiting. And so that's what the appeal of basketball was to me all along. And then I collected my favorite players. I didn't collect everybody else. I just collected the guys that I really liked. And the guys I liked were guys that a lot of people liked for the same reason, you know? But that's how I actually got my name. So 3 years ago, I was doing card shows, and people I set up a booth, and I became known as the basketball card guy, because I was the only one there that only had basketball. A lot of people had a little section of basketball mixed in with their baseball, or they had baseball and football and just a tiny bit of basketball or none. I was a guy that didn't bring a single card that wasn't a basketball card, because this is what I collected. And that's how I got the name. And it's funny now because like you talk about it, Cage, like when you look back and people think about it now, like there's so many people that just collect basketball now. But that was totally 3 years ago, and back before that, I was in the way minority.
But listen, the thing for Luka Nation to take out of this one, guys, really, and check it out, BasketballCardGuy.com, and check that out down there. Look at this fancy stuff with it. Oh my god, Basketball Card Guy. So someone listening right now, you're hockey card guy, you're Marvel card guy, you're something else, and you're not wrong because no one else is doing it. You're not wrong because you're in the minority. And think of the journey that John has taken. We're going to hear about it. We're going to go back to 2006 in a second. But think of how that was the right move. Even though he was obscure, even though he was the oddball at the card show who only had basketball cards. Think of how right he was to do that. Think of how history, looking back now, is saying how smart that was. In a couple years, maybe it's soccer card guy who's making a headway. Go ahead, Andrew.
Mind if I jump in here on that? Because before today's episode, I went to John's page and I saw his. He does a great Q&A in his highlights, and one of the things you mentioned was how game-worn jerseys are less expensive than the patch cards of the jersey, which is a piece.
Yeah,
and what thought came to my mind was, you want to be early and have the market come to you, but you don't always have the market come to you. So with you, both of you guys, you have experience. How do you decipher that, right? How do you know when to be early, and how do you know, man, the market may never come to me here?
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is it doesn't matter if it does or doesn't, because I'm not in it. As a collector, I'm not in it to make money. That's not my main goal. That's not the reason I got into it initially. I got into it because I enjoy it, legitimately. It brings me joy to see the cards. That's why, like you were saying early on too, like, how do you end up with a model where you have a full-time job and yet you can do this on the side so seriously? It's because I enjoy doing it. It's an escape from the full-time job. And so I think that's what it is for a lot of people. And a lot of people just getting in now, it's totally the nostalgia factor. The reason that they want to collect these guys is because they remember watching them play, or they remember they wanted that card back in the day and they never got to buy it. A, because they couldn't find it. B, because it was too expensive at the time and they just didn't have funds. When you were a kid, you didn't have the money to spend on a $100 card necessarily. And now today that card's $1,000, but maybe you have the $1,000 that you can buy it. And so a lot of that stuff plays into it.
I love it. And I got to tell you, I hate it at the same time because I'm with you. It's a hobby. It's nostalgia. It's all that fun stuff. But Andrew talked about the hobby coming back. How do you know if it's going to come to you? There's a lot to it, right? So, and I'll give my own little personal one here. I hate being wrong, and it is making money, right? And I love when people come on and say stuff like what you just said, John, and I admire it. I really do, because I don't care if the market comes to me, because I'm buying what I love, and and it's worked for you, because what you love also is worth a lot of money.
Right.
If in 1996 you happen to love Antonio McDyess, you might not love the hobby so much right now. You know what I mean? So,
right.
So there is that Kobe, Jordan. You love those guys, and they all also love making a little bit of money with it too. The whole deal. So I'm gonna tell you just a quickie. I mean, Cage Lawyer. That's because I collected UFC cards. You also, even if you're right, Andrew, sometimes you are moving yourself out of it before you're right.
Right.
So I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, man. Because I wish I still had any of my UFC stuff. I wish I had any of, because it's going crazy right now. And I was right, but I was also moving out of it. I also said that this is not catching on. I didn't like the Reebok deal. I didn't like where the UFC was going. I didn't like that didn't have headliners. So I'm like, I'm selling out now. I'll take my money. And I did fine, but obviously I would have done a lot better. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I love John's bringing a bunch of things to this, right? Because this collecting, what we're doing, this is not cookie cutter, man. Everybody's got their own way of doing this. So I love the buy what you love. I love the never selling. And kudos to you, man, because you come out of college, right, 2003, and you're not doing well. And I don't know what you did. We're going to get to your story in a second. But you didn't first say, shit, basketball cards are making a comeback here. LeBron's bringing everybody's attention to it. Let me sell my Kobe's and my Jordans now. You didn't do that. So let's talk about that. Talk about that 03 to 06 where you get into this big time. And how do we start this?
Yeah, well, 06 is when I came back into buying more again. So I had some disposable income, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back to what I enjoy doing and having it on the side. So I started buying exquisite collection stuff at that point because it was high end, cool looking, beautiful cards. I still couldn't afford the Jordans in it, So I started picking up Chauncey Billups, which is a guy that I loved at the same time. But when the Jordan was $4,000, the Billups was $40. So it was like, okay, go buy a bunch of them. So I got like the Chauncey Billups limited logos out of Exquisite for on average like $40 to $50 a piece at the time. They're like $500, $600, $700 cards right now, And again, I have all of them still because I held on to them because I liked them and I didn't have a lot of money into them at that point. To me and to anyone, like anyone that's really thinking about this, it's not a hard equation for me. It's at the point at which you would rather have the money than the card that you should sell it. And it's at the point at which you'd rather have the card than the money that you should buy it. That's the question we all need to ask ourselves anytime we're about to do a deal. And it doesn't matter what the market says. Like, forget about the eBay sold, forget about all of that stuff. For me, I look at it each time. And if someone comes to me with something and says, hey, I got this card, I know it's Jordan, I know you like Jordan, I have to price that accordingly to would I rather have the cash or the card at any point? And sometimes, as these cards grow or they get more limited or I realize it's the only one I've seen of this particular card in a long time, my willingness or price to let it go for starts to go up much higher because I know I'll not get it again. I have one card. So my best card in my collection is Michael Jordan limited logos out of 06, 07 Exquisite. I did buy it probably in maybe 2011. And I didn't put anywhere near as much money into it as obviously what it's worth today. But I've had several offers for the card since I bought it. And I didn't sell it, not because I hold on to absolutely everything. I've sold plenty of stuff in the last few years, it's about, and we can talk about kind of prioritizing your collection and how do you let go of certain things as well. But that one particular card was one that my father actually, in discussions with him, I was offered $30,000 for the card at one point, which was considerably more than I had into it. And I told my dad this, and my dad was immediately like, okay, like down to the nitty gritty, like, so are you going to meet this guy? Is he going to have cash? Or like, how do you make sure that the cash is real? And or is he going to transfer he was getting down to all that. But then he asked me the question, which was the most important question to ask, which was, if you sell that card, are you going to try and get another? Because this was like it was truly a grail card. And people use that term grail cards all the time. And I think it's weird when they use it for multiples. Like this was truly the one card I wanted. It was
my Luka Silver Prism is my grail card.
Right. Yes. This was the only one. And so I had it. And so my dad said, are you going to want another one? Are you going to want to replace it? And I said, well, yeah. And he goes, and will you ever be able to find one and get it for less money than you're selling it for? I was like, probably not. He says, why are you selling it then? Like, why would you, even though it's an exorbitant amount of money over what you spent on it, it's a great profit if you're looking at it in terms of a business, sense, which is where he was looking at it originally when we were talking about like, is it cash or what is it? You're meeting at a police station? Like, how is this working? But it ended up in the end just being that really true question of, what's worth more to me, the card or the money? And at that point, like I realized I'd have to spend more than $30,000 to get another one, and I'd want another one. And so why would I let it go? And so I think that's just important to kind of put in the frame. Everyone looks at eBay these days, and I think that's a whole other discussion, about how much the values are tied to that, which I think is unreasonable. But beyond that, like you have to ask yourself, is it worth it for you? Or are you just following a trend? Are you following someone else's fake sale or whatever else might have happened there? Or are you doing things you want it?
I see your wheels turning there because Cage, Cage has made some good moves in the last 12, 16 months here, especially with older school rookies. I think he's done a really good job with players who have one rookie card is one of Cage's kind of staple principles that I've learned.
Awesome.
Which isn't talked enough about in the hobby, in my opinion, not nearly enough. But Cage, your wheels are turning, so I'm curious where you were going to go with it. I want to give you the floor.
Well, John has dropped eBay now twice as a bad indicator of actual value of cards. But the second drop, he actually threw in the word fake sales. So he kind of tipped his hand on what he thinks about eBay and the prices. So John, without shitting on eBay too much, because I do that enough for all of us, right? It's talk to me about how you would value your cards, right? I mean, is it a combination looking at eBay? Is it really drilling down in eBay? Is it using other sources? Talk to me about how you would, if you were gonna go sell a card, something you had two of, something that's got some scarcity to it, where would you look? Because if eBay is potentially manipulated, which I'm putting words in your mouth, but I don't think it's a stretch.
No, it's totally manipulated, but yes. No, I mean, it's a lot of factors. So it is looking at eBay as one point, but if there's only one sale on eBay of a particular card, it's much harder to determine, is this actually worth that in this one particular sale versus like, even if it's a card that they made, like the Luka Doncic Prism card, for instance, that there are plenty of sales about. Is it people jumping onto a trend there as opposed to actual value? And for me, it's not looking at the individual card. It's looking at the history of that card through multiple years of the set. It's looking at wax prices. It's looking at other cards from other sets. It's looking at, is the player performing particularly well, or is this a hyped up choice that people are told that they're supposed to invest in this guy? I mean, Zion is the A number one. When the investor class came into this a year ago, where we had, let's call it, like there was a wave of investors that were coming in because they saw the dollar amounts going up. Zion was someone that everybody was told to invest in because of the promise, because of all these things. Look at him in college, all of this stuff. But unreasonable things started happening while he wasn't playing. So while he's not on the court, while he hasn't had a minute in an official NBA game, his cards are tripling and quadrupling in value. He's out on injury. He's not played an NBA game yet. That's like kind of the red flags for me. Stuff like that, where there's no real tie to anything other than, oh, we've all just decided that we all have them, so we're going to all decide that they're worth more now. And that's great for anybody that has the card, but anyone that's like entering that market, now you're starting to pay an unreasonable price, in my opinion, for something that's not proven yet. So that's a lot of the factors that go into it. Believe it or not, I still subscribe to Beckett. How old school is that, right? I still have a subscription there. And part of that is just to get a baseline. It's hilarious to me, and it kind of brings me back down to earth. If a card is trending on eBay for $100 and it's booking in Beckett for $8, it's saying something to you right off the bat, like, wait a minute. Because Beckett does, like, not to crap on them at all. Beckett is slower about values, way slower. But it is a good indicator when you check that to see, well, wait a minute, they're usually only about a month behind. What has happened to that card in the last month that it could be selling for $100 now when they have it at $8, And so those kinds of things I use as red flags, look a little bit deeper, and then you see if there's some of the same people bidding on stuff. There's a lot of work to do there. And I like the truly rare cards. So I'm not a guy that has too many base cards. I like the numbered stuff. I like the autograph stuff. I like the patch stuff. I like knowing the limitation as it's listed right on the card. I don't believe in going to the grading sites to find out the pop report as the report of how many exist, because obviously we don't know how many are ungraded out there. That's just an indicator of popular cards that were graded. The same thing can be said for cards when people, have a card that's a pop 2 and they're like, look at this card. It's so rare. It's a pop 2. And it's yeah, but it's an Antonio McDice card, to use the example from earlier. No one's really grading him. No one wants to pay the money for that. So that's why the pop is low. So
Antonio, if you're listening, I apologize. I didn't mean to crap on you. One hell of a ball player. It was just, it was an easy comparison from the right year.
You did something really, really smart, John. You do this Q&A on your Instagram page that I love. And one of the questions I had for you was in regards to, you mentioned Luka manipulation.
Yep.
And I just wanted you to elaborate because I love the positive side of the hobby. And what we try to do with our daily show is share experiences, share insights, share things that we're seeing so that people at least could be informed when they're making decisions. At the end of the day, people are going to make their own decisions no matter what. Of course. Yeah. But at least being informed. And there's a lot of good stuff, but there is some of this negative if you're not aware of it. So could you share a little bit about what you meant by, there's manipulation in the Luka market?
Yeah, I mean, right from the start on the Luka stuff on the Prism, not right from the start, but right from the start of the ramp up, you could see, and it was early on, there were a couple of accounts that were doing it all. If you looked in the first 2 weeks of it, it was crazy. I had 2 Luka Prisms. I bought them for 50 cents a piece towards the beginning. I bought them on eBay. No joke. I bought them on eBay for 50 cents a piece. I sold both of them for $20.
You paid more for shipping
than I did for the cards. Yep. And I sold both of them for $20 a piece at a local show. The gentleman that bought them from me sent them out for grading. They both gemmed PSA 10s, and then he sold both of them for $550 a piece 3 weeks later. So you just look at kind of the market change, but that was right at the time. That was that $20. The time that I sold them for $20 was the time that the raw cards went from $20 to about $100, and it was the same time that the Gem Mint 10s went from roughly $80 to $100 up to $550. And then obviously they went all the way up to $2,000 after that.
And let's contextualize it. That's like September, October 2019.
I think so. I don't remember the exact month, but yeah, probably right around then. It was before the holidays. So yeah. And just to, like, if you saw the people that were bidding on it, and look, eBay, the trick there for folks that aren't sure of this, if you look at bid history on eBay, they block out names. They just put some random things in, and they're not even the same on each user. So like the same user on two different things will have a different name. It'll be like I ***3, and then on the next one it's B ***4. So people say, well, you don't know if it's the same person bidding, but you do because their feedback number is the same. Yes. So if you see I ***3 with a feedback of 634 is the high bidder on this one, and then on another thing, J ***4 with a feedback of 634 was the winner on the next one, that's the same person. The odds are, so that's how you can kind of look through it. And friends of mine and I were looking at this deeply because we just didn't understand how this could so quickly grow, because it was going by leaps and bounds. And once it got off the ground and people noticed it, they did it more and more. And there were some people that had 100 or 200 of these Lukas sitting around because they were common cards, guys. Like, these are not difficult cards to find. They've probably produced about 100,000 of them by estimate. So there's 100,000 of that card out there. 16,000 or whatever at this point are graded Gem Mint 10. It's probably more than that by now. It's not a rare card. And by any other measure, if you looked at the year previous, like Jason Tatum was the hot rookie the year before, at the same time that Luka was selling at these astronomical prices, Jason Tatum was, a 20th of that. And that's the red alarm for me. If I look at it, you look at previous years, same set, same kind of general production run. Some people said that the Luka year was even more produced than the previous year, whatever. But even if they were the same, they were so far apart. The delta there was so big that should set off a red alert for you before you start throwing money into it. Now, that doesn't matter for someone investing short term, and I can't stress that enough. So there's so many people that said to me back when I made that video when the Luka was $600 and it went up to $2,000 after that, so many people said to me, look, you were wrong. It went up even higher. And I'm like, no, it's not about it going up higher short term. It's about in the long term as a collector, someone like me who wants to keep the card for a very long time. I was just saying the card shouldn't have been worth that much in the first place. So years from now, when the demand comes down or there's another card that people are going towards, that price will start to come down because the supply is so high. There's no shortage of those cards. It's not hard to get one. So those are kind of some of the key factors to look at when you're really thinking about it. That, and I would rather spend $2,000 on an autographed card or, a numbered card. You could get a Luka at the time. You could get a Luka jersey autograph card that was numbered, I think 50 or less for the same price. Like it was way more limited than the 16,000 out there for the Gem Mint 10. So again, personal preference.
And it has the cool feature of possibly being signed by a family member too. So you got
right.
that double
I don't
pack.
know if you guys saw my April Fool's joke from last year, not this year, but the year before. Did you guys see that? I don't know if you guys
take a look. I'll go recall. It's fun to go back.
I have it here. So I brought it today because I wasn't sure if it would be brought up. But so for folks that are watching this on YouTube, which you guys should check out this podcast on YouTube. I was watching earlier today. It was great seeing the video forms of this. This was my April Fool's joke back in 2020. I claimed that I had put in a bunch of Panini redemptions, which is true. I have 14 autographs that have yet to be redeemed by Panini, as we all do. And so the joke was I claimed that they cleared out all 14 that they owed me and instead sent me one card that's a one of one to me in replacement for it. And it was this card, which is the Luka Doncic Miriam Potterbin dual autograph, which is Luka and Luka's mom, both signed the same way. So getting to that joke of did his mom sign the autographs or not? And on the back of the card, it says, we cannot authenticate either autograph as we have no idea who is signing what in this family. So this was my big April Fool's joke a year ago. It made its way around the internet and it looked legit. And that's why people are freaking out. I pulled it out of a Panini envelope. It has a sticker on it. People are like freaking out. Oh my God, they actually made a card with his mom on it and the autographs are identical. So, but just a little fun with it there.
John, where the hell does something like that come from? Because that card is nice. So where
yeah, so
you got, like little minions working in the back?
I do. So I have a guy that does foil work. So I know some people in printing and stuff. And I did a design. I actually designed it out so that it would look a lot like the immaculate cards that are out there. And then with the foil and everything, it really looks the part. And that's the importance with any joke. Like people like my latest April Fool's this year, which a lot of people saw. They're like, but it looks so legitimate. Like I thought it was real.
Yep.
And that's the part. That's the only way it's going to work. If I had printed this out on a computer printer and put it in a case, everyone would have gone, that looks so fake. Like you didn't really get that card. It has to look real. And so that's part of it. So
you know what I'm hearing from this Luka Nation? You know why John is successful? I was going to go with luck before, and I was going to tell you a story about, teenage Cage who was going to card shows with his dad and buying every single prospect card.
I want to hear.
And I was buying the Luka, let's call it, buying the Zion, let's call it. I was buying, let's call it the Joe Burrow or the Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. And I didn't buy the Dan Marino. I didn't buy the Joe Montana. I wasn't buying the Jerry Rice, who was huge at the time, the Emmitt Smith, the Barry Sanders, the GOATs, the guys who, as a collector, now looking back, you would know that those guys are going to have long-term value, right? Instead, my father, my brother, and I were buying every single Drew Bledsoe off of every table that we walked past.
Rolling the dice.
And I, like
more
you,
upside.
John, have every single one of them still. But I venture to say that unless you're Drew Bledsoe's mom, my collection pales in value comparison to what you have from your 90s basketball cards. But the important thing, what I'm learning from John here, and guys, it's a fun one too, right? Don't half-ass your shit, right? So John has showed you with just his April Fool's joke. I don't think Panini can make a card as good as what you just showed me. Like that is legit. He's got like the Panini sticker on this thing. He's got like I thought it was an immaculate card. And where'd you get the picture of Luka's mom? Please don't tell me. Certain secrets can be kept.
I actually changed the color of her dress. It was originally green, but it looked better as red on the card.
But point being, like, there's a reason why John is successful, because I'm sure that if he puts that much into his April Fool's joke, and is not half-assing it, it's the same with the collection. It's the same with the hobby. He's on eBay. He's cut the damn Beckett magazine. Does it still have the stupid arrows? The up arrow?
I only get the online version now. I only get the
okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. At least we've given up the print. But guys, the point here is don't half-ass it. Like, if you're going to be an investor in this stuff, you're going to go into this stuff. There are a lot of resources out there for you, including John himself, including shows like us, including, places where you get your value, you name it. And if you really want to be successful, I'm sure the reason why John is where he is because he goes all in on his stuff. He researches it, he does the work, he doesn't half-ass it. Go ahead, Andrew. You're chomping at the bit. Go for it.
Appreciate that.
Well, I mean, I'd love for people to know a little bit about John outside of cards. So, like, you were one of the first creators on YouTube. Could you share a little bit of your media company, your business, what you do professionally too?
I don't share. I was gonna say I don't share too much about that in the card zone. Right. But I'll give kind of a brief on it. So I've been interested in media for a long time. I worked in television for years. I worked for a consulting firm for years in New York. I did launch one of the very first partner channels on YouTube. It was entertainment content back in the day. Had about 50 million views on that. Had lots of meetings out at Google, in New York, and got to do that whole end of things. I worked in marketing. I worked for a big movie studio back in the day, working on websites for that stuff. I had one of the very first iPhone apps ever to be featured by Apple, an entertainment app at the same time. It was all, kind of focused around video. I've just used video as a medium. It's kind of the way to summarize my life. My company now, my day job is focused around video media and television and working with businesses to communicate better with their customers. So it's all about that kind of piece. and cards and this zone is like kind of, I brought my knowledge of that in. I had zero knowledge of e-commerce up until I launched BasketballCardGuy.com. And that was actually, for me, from the business stance, was I wanted to learn it. I wanted to figure out how to do it. And I was like, well, what could I sell? I don't want to just sell hats or t-shirts or whatever, like make up a brand. I want to have stuff that would be actually interesting. And I'm like, well, I have some inventory. I have a whole collection. Why don't I just sell some of my collection? My PC's too big anyway, So I kind of prioritized what I wanted to keep. And then I started pulling stuff out of the PC. And that's how I created the website to use that. But all of my marketing knowledge, all of my video knowledge, all the things that I did throughout my professional life have been injected into that. My personality is obviously a part of that, but also my willingness and kind of the customer service stance. Like you were saying, like I am absolutely a resource to anyone listening to this. I answer every single DM on Instagram, every single one. And, I get people that ask me everything from what's my card worth, to just asking how they get more involved or advice on certain things. I'm more than happy to help people. I do those QAs on Instagram. I'm trying to do one a week or one every 2 weeks now, because people just come on those in droves. I get a few hundred people that are just, and I'm like on it for like 2 hours. I'm going to do half an hour, and then 2 hours later, I'm still answering questions. But I love that. People that truly get enjoyment out of being in the hobby, that I think is great. And I do really talk about it as a hobby, and it comes back to the beginning. Yes, I have some money in it as an investment, but I would call it what would you call it? Like not a purposeful investment, like an accidental investment more so. And so I still refer to it as a hobby in that sense. I hear folks talking about it as the hobby that are just purely in it for business. And it bothers me a little bit because it's like, like it's not really the hobby then, it's the business when you're talking about that. But for me, it really is the hobby. It's my escape from the day, my escape from the day job. And I love helping people with it. I mean, totally.
So I saw you with an interview doing an interview with Darren Ravel.
Yes.
And this, I've seen you a few times. Darren Herman, guys, Midlife Crisis Cards, does this amazing monthly Zoom as well. It's just so helpful. There's so many. It's the big players in the hobby, and they're all sharing ideas, kind of like a fireside chat.
Yes.
But time and time again, I keep hearing about this grading company, but I have no idea what it is. And I feel like it's like that Fight Club thing. It's like the number one rule of Fight Club isn't to talk about Fight Club.
No, this is his April Fool's joke from 3 years ago. That's what this is.
So this is so I'll put on my other hat. So grading company was this year's April Fool's joke. So I had to go bigger than last year. So grading company was a fictional grading company. I figured what better name than grading company, and it wasn't taken. I got gradingco.com. I got grading company on Instagram. Literally, I couldn't believe this. Grading Co on Twitter. I just unreal. But this company, I literally made a hat, embroidered hat, popped it on. I announced on April Fool's Day that I had left my job and I am going to be the chief marketing officer of a new grading company. And put out a website, gradingco.com. People visited that website. 24,000 people visited it on April Fool's Day, just out of nowhere, and shared that this is a new revolutionary grading company. It started off as hopeful fantasy. Like when people watch it, they probably go, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is exactly what we need. But as you read down the things, the items on it, or you watch the interview that I did with Darren Ravel, you find out really quick, like, this is completely ridiculous. So we start off by saying, like, you've got, and this idea I think will come out someday. I think there will be a real company that does this. But the whole notion was you grade your card using your phone. So you scan the card using your phone, you get a grade on the spot. You pay $5, you get the grade of your card. You scan the front, the back, you do a few little moves, and the app is able to tell you your grade. If you like the grade, you can pay to encapsulate the card. So you're not just spending all this stupid time sending your card out. You don't get the grade you want. You don't get the minimum grade or whatever, and you've waited 8 months and you get the card back ungraded. Like, what's worse than that, right? So this, you scan it, you know immediately what you're going to get. You then order a DIY encapsulation kit. Again, decent idea at the front. It comes embedded with a sticker in it. You then put your card in the case and then you seal it. This is where it goes off the rails. The way to seal the card in the case is to put it in a plastic bag that looks like this. We say that we have a space people that develop this. So you put it in this bag. You then dip it into, for 5 minutes, a pot of boiling water. You take your card in this and you put it in boiling water for 5 minutes. I then told Rovell, like, the whole bag deflates at that point. That's when you know it's done. You then take the card out and it's encased forever. And it's beautiful. Beyond that, we had like kind of add-ons that would make the company even more kind of outlandish. Like, who cares about a PSA 10? You can get an 11, so we pushed it to 11. So we kind of took out a Spinal Tap, You guys are seeing that, like, well, if my amp doesn't go to 10, it goes to 11. It's 11.
Right.
It's one better than 10. So
you've heard of 7-minute abs? How about
6-minute abs? Exactly. So it was ridiculous. It was fun, but it went out like crazy. And Rovell loved it. I had sent him a preview of the website a week early. And so he got to see it. He sent me a text message like, dude, I'm dying. He's like, whatever you want to do, I want to be involved in this. It's hilarious. So we set up an interview the day before the launch, and it was great. We really played off of each other, talking about, like, are there any issues that come up with your cases? And I said, yeah, occasionally we've gotten reports that, like, a piece of penne is stuck inside the grading case, and then people didn't clean their pot before they put it in, and we're like talking back and forth about all these things. He said, like, are people spending a lot more time in the kitchen? And I said, yeah, but you could hire people. We've had some clients that hire out a commercial kitchen to take care of it for them, like crazy stuff. So you guys got to check out the videos on the website as well, Grading Co. I'm keeping the website up just because it was hilarious. But yeah, 24,000 people visited on April 1st. It was insane. And then beyond that, the video got viewed with Rovell and I think close to 50,000 times that day. It was just a viral marketing, viral marketing beauty. And it was all couched in the fact that this happened 2 days after PSA announced that they weren't taking submissions anymore, except for the 300 and above level. So talk about a perfect opportunity. And then SGC that morning announced that they were raising their prices. And everyone was like, is that an April Fool's joke? Bad joke for a company to make. We're going to raise our prices today. Like, that made no sense.
We had no other option. PSA closed down and they raised their prices, so we have to raise ours.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, they're like, what else do we do? And it's like, but PSA raised their prices a few weeks earlier and now they're shutting down. Like, maybe that doesn't work. So people wanted this to be real so bad. I got investment offers, no joke, millions of dollars from VC firms. I'm still actually fielding calls from VC firms now because they were introduced into it. Now they realize it's a joke, but they still want to talk because they thought from a marketing standpoint, this was just so amazing. And that there was a lot.
I don't want to invest in the company, but John, you know what you're doing here. So look, can I just invest in you?
Well, it's ironic. My investor, he said the same thing back to the company that I run now. Actually, said the same thing to me back in the day, and so I appreciate that. But
just take my money. Take my money.
Yeah, but Cage, to your point earlier, and what you said, and I appreciate it so much. I don't do things half-assed. That is just the way I am. It's the way I'm wired. Some people, the DMs I got were like, why would you spend 3 weeks to create an April Fool's joke? And I said, because it wouldn't have worked otherwise.
Yep.
If the site didn't look as good as it does, if I didn't get a hat with the logo on it, and I didn't make a logo, everything. If you were going to launch a grading card company, you would have to have certain things. I don't have them here right now, but I actually had encased cards with a label. I mean, like, went to all lengths to make sure that it was real enough that it gave that portrayal so that people really enjoyed it. I did not get a lot of hate messages, thankfully. People actually did legitimately enjoy it. It was a nice departure from, so much of it. And the same thing as the Luka thing the year earlier. It's just something fun that they got.
You have to be thinking, if I'm a listener of the show and I'm watching this, I'm listening right now, I'm thinking, if this is the depth you go for something that's a fake out, think about what he's got to be putting into his real business ventures.
Yep.
So, and that, it's an important lesson to be learned, right? I mean, and when you can double down and you're doing it on something that you love, I mean, it's cool stuff. But that
You know
leads
what I
us to
take away real quick
yeah, go for it.
is it's what you've taught me. It's to have fun and to have joy, right? Like sometimes we think of fun and joy as like a end product. I'll have fun and I'll be joyful when I get that Michael Jordan PSA 10 Fleer. But what I've seen from John is the way you get that Michael Jordan PSA 10 Fleer and have success is through fun and enjoyment. So that was my takeaway.
Well, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you should, because John telling that story, that's the most fun I've seen anybody having in the hobby, however you want to describe it, in a long time. So good for you. It's
Thanks,
great
man.
to see you're still having fun. But it leads us to the question, right? Because obviously you're making fun of grading.
Yeah.
So you don't have a single graded card? I mean, you've never graded cards.
So up until recently, so I got one card back, which I'm going to do a reveal video on later.
Right,
But
don't spoil.
I won't spoil, but I did do my first grading order with PSA recently before the shutdown. It was the day before they raised prices, actually. It was the last day you could get them in. Prior to that, like, my feeling on it has just been, I like the cards for the cards. And to me, I can see, like, with my own eyes, how the condition is. And if the condition is good enough, like if I'm looking for a near mint to mint card, I can examine and go, yeah, this is near mint to mint. I like looking at it. It doesn't matter to me what a grading card company will grade it. If it's a 9, if it's a 10, doesn't make a difference to me in that sense. I have some friends that love having all the cards graded. Doesn't matter what the grades are necessarily. They like the consistency of the cases. I get that. I also get the protection level. They feel like those are much sturdier than anything you can do with a mag or, a top loader, things like that. The part that always bugged me about having them in a graded case was the lack of UV protection over time, because the cases are only really rated to 5 years. So you'll see, and we see this time and time again with Chrome cards, like the Kobe Chrome rookie, that you'll get a Gem 10 in there, but then the card hulks, it turns green over time, because that UV protection that's on that case was out 10 years ago. Yep. And you'd have to crack the case, get it re-slabbed to get that protection back. And people don't realize that a lot. But I'm like really particular about the cards. I keep my cards, most of my like high-end stuff, out of the light in temperature controlled environments. Like, I'm obsessive over that stuff. And that's why my stuff is kept so well over the years. But that's the other reason that I didn't grade was on that end. I think grading is totally appropriate for people that are looking to flip cards, or just in general, not even flip. Sometimes flip's a bad word. Sell. If you're looking to sell cards, it can add value. And in today's market, there's nothing that can add value quicker than getting the card graded to something that you already have. Like if you already got the card in hand, sending it out to get graded, it comes back a nice grade. You can multiply that money, as you guys both know, 10x, 20x sometimes.
All right, so you're not anti-grading in and of itself. And
no, not at all. I just don't do it with my own personal collection.
Well, some of the stuff is so scarce, right? I mean, some of your cards, it doesn't matter what the grade is; it's going to sell.
Exactly, and I never understand grading a 1-of-1 personally.
Me neither.
I just and I got so I have a whole side PC of Thomas Bryant cards. So talking about I have some main guys, but Thomas Bryant is someone that I've collected for a little while as well. Because again, it was inexpensive to collect. I enjoyed watching him play. I think he's a great player. But a guy got a 1-of-1 of his, and I wish I had gotten to him before he graded it, but he graded a Gem 10 1-of-1. And I'm like, yes, but it may be a Gem 10, and it may be the best condition. It's a pop 1. It's the best condition out of any card like that ever graded. But it's also the worst condition because it's
correct.
Still the only one.
It adds nothing. Grading creates an artificial
anything.
Scarcity, and you're not creating scarcity on a 1-of-1.
Yeah.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Could not agree more at all. And as a matter of fact, I think you can only do harm grading a 1-of-1 because, you put something in a BGS 7 case that's a 1-of-1. I'd rather have it in a top loader.
Absolutely. 100%. So, you're taking a real gamble that you're not going to add any value, but you could be taking it away.
You know what you both have in common? You both are passionate about 90s inserts. First off, and specifically the jambalaya cards. Cage loves the jambalaya. Oh, you just picked up a Tim Duncan jambalaya.
Yeah, I have it over here, I think. Yeah.
Such a cool card. And such an iconic player who I don't know if he gets the appreciation he deserves for how good he is, but I want to touch on 90s inserts because I think true collectors like you guys really there's something special about those.
That was new. That was the thing. That's beautiful. That's gorgeous. So it's funny, right?
That's gorgeous.
I wish it was I got in 2 or 3 years earlier because, about 6 months to 9 months after I got in, this card finally sold. But the Kobe Jambalaya PSA 10 in an old slab was sitting on eBay for $5,000. PSA 10 forever. It was just one of those like, hey, I never bought a Kobe card. I wasn't the huge Kobe guy. Kobe was after me. I was the Shaq guy. And, I thought Kobe stole some of Shaq's spotlight and never really loved him because of that. But it sat there and I'm like, I should buy this card. But I was still it's funny, we talk about Luka. I was buying Luka base for $15, grading him and selling him for $65 in PSA 10. Like I was doing the same thing, like an idiot. But
no, that's not idiotic. And that I would even go further to say, like your examples earlier of saying like you sold too early on things because look at where they are now. But you can also sell too late. Like everything went up. Pretty much everything went up. And I think people get a false sense. There's a lot of guys that came into this hobby recently that think they are the thing. They think they're so smart. And it's like, no, everything went up.
Right. It's easy to be smart when every move you make is going to be right.
Everything goes up, and like you were saying earlier, kids, like that I was smart for holding stuff. Yes, but that's only because everything's gone up so much. Like, and so it's not rocket science here. When it comes to that recently, I think in the next few years, you're going to really start to see how people do in those decisions more. But anyway, yeah.
100% right. So the 90s inserts, Andrew, at least I'll tell you what I think. Now it's RPAs, now it's these cool things. Those didn't exist. And the 90s was fun, right? Because there were 2 things that came about in the 90s that were like big for collectors. One was the premium, the shiny, right? So it used to just be these like random dull cardstock cards. And then 93 Finest came out. You had refractors for the first time. It was the first like uber premium brand, right? Yeah, look, gorgeous cards. Bowman, 92 Bowman.
Which, by the way,
huge. Go ahead.
I mean, we're talking a little bit about Topps Finest because Topps Finest is so nice. Like the 1995 Topps Finest Jordan Refractor is such a cool card. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but
yeah. So and then inserts became a big thing, right? So it wasn't yet autographs or relics in the cards. I mean, they came. But, you start to get inserts. And inserts were the chase cards. Look at that. It's a gorgeous card, too.
This one was crazy. I got recently. This is exclamation points out of Ultra. It's actually in an envelope that's like laser cut out. And it's just, the back is very uninteresting because it's an envelope.
That's cool.
But, like, things you never see because they were so rare. But they were so ingenious. Like, who comes up with making an exclamation point in a card like that?
Yep.
And for anyone listening to this, you should watch the YouTube.
That's a cool card. No, but some of the 90s inserts are some of the best looking stuff that ever was created. And people were not taking them straight from a pack and sending them to PSA. So not only are they cool looking cards, but like they're hard to have in high grades. You look at like one of my favorites, the 93 Ultra Scoring Kings of Michael Jordan with the lightning striking the background with a purple foil to it. Yep. Like a 10 is a huge card. There's not that many of them, And I
have a 7.5 in that, and that's about average.
Yeah, and 7.5 is actually it's a pretty decent grade and still costly, but it's a gorgeous card. So you know what it is? It was the changing time for us, Andrew. The inserts that was the chase. You weren't chasing autos. You weren't chasing RPAs. You were chasing those inserts and they tried to up the game. Every year, like those cello packs and rack packs, and who's 93, 94 Fleer has Tower of Power. Focusing on the centers. You got the Elijah one, I got the Robert Parrish. Boo. Yeah. So, but that was what you were chasing. It was just a cool thing. And
just inventive, and they use new materials. Like I can show this one too. Like this is the titanium, so they were see-through, and then you have the foil on top. I mean, they did stuff that was different, that was out there. That today, like unfortunately, there isn't as much innovation. Like they're using a lot of stuff that was from back then. And like you said, like there are autographs, there are patches, there are jerseys now that there weren't then. I'd say the biggest triumph for me as a collector, and I'm a big set collector. So you mentioned Scoring Kings. I recently completed that set. So I did that one. But the biggest set I ever put together that took me 15 years was the autographic set from 1996. Because that was the first year
one,
get an on-card autograph in a pack with an NBA licensed card. And that to me was the changing over. That was when everything changed. Same thing, another set that I made that again was like one of those historic changes was the very first 1993-94 Topps Finest refractor set. I made the whole refractor set that year, which is like, I think it's 300 cards. It's a ginormous set. But that was the first time you had a chromium card in sports.
Yep.
And that led to all of the years of Finest, all the years of Chrome, all the years of Bowman's, all the years of Prism.
So it's funny, John, you say this first thing is, what's funny is I was about to ask you, was it basketball? And I'm an idiot because your name is the basketball card guy. I'm like, 93 Finest, did you do baseball? But, Andrew probably remembers this. We're in, we met on an Instagram group, and I used to come in all the time and tell people 93 Finest is the most underrated set in the world because it started the whole thing. It started refractors, silvers, like all the Prism, the shiny, like that was the uber premium, like that. And I, at one point, was trying to build a PSA 10 baseball Finest set. But it's just, first of all, you can't build it because Bernie Williams, there's never been a 10 graded. So
you gotta find a raw one that's good enough, and then take your chances on that one. Yeah.
Right? I'm sure, but like the Nolan Ryan's so expensive and so rare. I mean, but I'm with you, man. The basketball set, I'm gonna hot take here. It's hideous. It is
really
ugly.
You think so?
It's ugly.
I think in comparison to other years, I would agree with that. I think it had its own. I think the refractors. I mean, they're beautiful when you see them separate. Because so much of it was rainbow colored, so many people don't know how to tell the difference between a base and a refractor.
Oh, that's part of it. It's just like those weird shapes and colors behind
it. It
them.
is weird. Yeah.
I don't mind the brick wall.
I was gonna say the brick ones are my favorite.
Those were cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. But so Andrew, you got off on a tangent. But here's what I'll answer on the 90s inserts for collectors like John and myself. If you were to ask somebody today, not autographs, not the cool RPA stuff, if they want to own a card of a basketball player who played in the 90s, they're going to give you a 90s insert as their grail card, whether it's a precious metal gem or a jambalaya or some other insert like that they're going to give you that, whether it's a beam team for Shaq, or like I said, a PMG for for Kobe. They're going to give you one of those inserts that's from the 90s. The 90s was like the inserts decade.
It was.
I'm not at that. I'm sitting on the Wi-Fi signal, and it's just that Wi-Fi really gets me peeved.
Well, we're watching an hour anyway. So what do you got for John?
Yeah, John. I want to respect your time. I know you have a 3:30.
Yep, it's okay. He may be here. He'll text me probably.
Cool. Just give me a thumbs up. But something I want to talk about. You led into this was. There hasn't been much innovation, right? And innovation comes from competition. And there's two specific places where there's no competition. I hope there is some. So one is grading companies, and two is Panini versus Topps, like licenses for sports, right?
Yeah.
And something I was talking to Darren Herman about yesterday, and I'm curious your take, both when it comes to grading companies and licenses, is competition's so good. We need competition. We need 7 to 10 different grading companies in the hobby so that there will be that innovation. So that same thing with the licenses. How do you see that playing out? Do you see there potentially being a market where there's 7 to 10 grading companies? Do you see there being a market where there's 3 different companies like Ultra, Topps, Fleer Ultra, Skybox, all these different companies owning NBA licenses? Do you see that happening with Panini as well?
I mean, I think it's more important that there be more companies producing the cards and there'd be more grading card companies personally. But I think the problem with the grading card company piece, no matter what you do, is it's always going to be dictated by how much value the grade is adding to the card. Because again, it's not attracting people like me pretty much no matter what they do, because I'm not someone that cares about what a third party thinks the condition of the card is. I have my own 2 eyes. I'm fine with looking. I also don't like to ship my cards out. It's funny that Darren Rovell said that you'll see that in the video on Grading Co. But his opener to it was a lot of people don't like letting their cards out of their house. Like they just feel weird mailing them out. What happens to it? Is it going to get damaged? That's the way. They're like my babies. Like I don't want to So I would probably never grade it, no matter what, as a collector in that zone, unless again I was looking to sell it. So then it becomes, to me, it would be, which grading card company is adding the greatest premium. And I think no matter how many you add, if you have 7, 10, 20, you're still going to have someone that's going to be the most. And so everyone's going to gravitate to that. Now, it wasn't always PSA. I'm sure Cage could tell you this too. BGS had a premium for a while. Yep. So this PSA thing, from my understanding, from everyone that I talked to, all the folks that message me, all the investors that are out there that come and ask for advice, came from the fact that 10 is a higher number than 9.5. And that simple fact, when people came in from the outside and they said, someone said to them, would you rather have a 10 or a 9.5? They said 10. 10's got to be worth more. It's a higher number.
It's very clean.
And so that's
just real quick, to the point where a Montana sold just the other day, a PSA 10 sold for $76,000. A BGS 9.5 sold for $10,000. Cage. I was going to send you the screenshot earlier.
Doesn't surprise me. People don't want
if I were in the market for that card, that was someone that I collected. It was a sport I collected. And if I was in the market for that, I would buy the BGS, all day long. If I wanted one graded, because again, I do think there's value in grading especially if you're buying online, in understanding condition. But if I'm buying a big card, I'd like to see it in person. Honestly, I like to see it up front. I'm lucky, I'm in the Northeast. I can access shows in New York. A lot of the guys that have big collections are connected or near New York City anyway. So we can arrange a meetup and I can see a card in person before I buy it, to really assess the value. But yeah, so I would think it's less important about the grading card company thing. Now, on the publishing side, on the actual creation of card side, yes, we need more companies involved in this. I think Upper Deck is the one that I miss the most. And they, from what I heard, and I don't know if this is true, so I'm going to say it with that couching in mind. I heard that originally Upper Deck had gone to the NBA and asked for the exclusive licensing, and that Panini overheard that this discussion was going on. It got back to them and they said, wait, we have more money. We'll go in and we'll offer the NBA more to get the exclusive. Whether or not that's true, Panini has the exclusive. They pay for it. So they're the only ones allowed to use the NBA logo, the team logos on cards currently. Upper Deck is allowed to use it on things like, I have a big one here, Supreme Hardcourt. They can do it on an item that's larger than a 3.5 by 5.5 card. So Upper Deck has produced these in recent years. This is an actual piece of game floor. It's one of the coolest cards. It's awesome. Cool. Signed. It's authenticated. They have the Upper Deck authentication comes in the box, but it's a real piece of floor. And they print right on it, and then they have them sign it. Some of them have jerseys. I have most of this set. I just don't have the LeBron. Is the only card that I don't have so far in it. I want
the Kobe. I want the Kobe game used.
I wish there was a Kobe in this one. I wish there was a Kobe. But I think Kobe at that point was signed with Panini, so he couldn't do the Upper Deck stuff. So he had the exclusive there. That's the thing. Like, this has always been a fight, and we talk about it every year. But Upper Deck has LeBron and Michael Jordan for autographs. They can't sign with Panini. And Panini has the NBA rights. So the Upper Deck cards that come out are all collegiate or otherwise, like them in street clothes, and they can't have the logos. So they're less desirable, cards now. So getting Upper Deck the licensing back would bring out LeBron James cards. It would bring out Michael Jordan cards again. It would probably have an effect on some of the old market stuff that's there that's gone up so much.
I was going to say that. Be careful what you ask for.
But I don't think it would kill it. I actually think there would be a high appreciation still for the stuff back when. But it would certainly add, some supply within there. But just the creativity. You had someone like so Upper Deck owns Fleer now, but Fleer back in the day was the driver of all of this stuff. I mean, when we're looking at everything from the metal, the titanium cards, to tops too, but like you look at half the inserts that I have are all like, this was, molten metal, like these were, and even these that were kind of crazy, the soul of the game, like these were out of Skybox, Fleer owned Skybox. This was really ingenious. And then, of course, the John Belayas, of course, EX2000 stuff in general, Flair. I mean, come on. Like, all of these kinds of cards were just ingenious, beautiful works of art.
Mm-hmm.
And
row 2.
Yeah.
Herbal.
Oh my God. You know, like
Oh, but they were the first ones to make like art cards. Like let's just go back even further. Like the hot gloves in baseball, and they turned the hot numbers. You have the Jordan hot number on the board. Like the
hot
die
shots.
cuts of the
Hot
card,
shots was the same as the hot gloves.
Yeah,
Yep.
the hot gloves with hot shots. The hot numbers, like Flair hot numbers, which has like the
lenticular 3D.
Exactly. Like they just they pushed the envelope because there was competition, Andrew. There's no competition now, so there's no need to push the envelope.
Yeah, Panini has so many sub brands.
Well, look at Zion's Prism card right now. I mean, who was it? Lamine posted it today. Zion, the picture on the Zion card is the same as last year's Mosaic. It's the same exact card. It's the same exact picture. Same exact the picture they use for their flagship Zion, him holding the ball like to the side. It's the picture from his last year's Mosaic card. That's silly.
I mean,
even with COVID, it's inexcusable to me.
It's lazy.
Even with COVID, it's inexcusable.
Well, I mean, Kevin Durant. I mean, like, look at every net card of Kevin Durant. It's him with a ball on one side or on the other side. I mean, it's just like, what, you know, and I'm a big fan of Kevin Durant. I have been since he was a rookie, and I do have a large collection of his cards. But, like, how many of these cards from the last 2 years can I possibly collect? It's the same picture on 45 different cards, you know?
It's true. It's very true.
It's just a sad kind of state, but you're right. I think there is a certain amount of, and I don't know anyone, and I don't know anyone at Panini, personally to offend, I guess. So, but I don't know if it's laziness or complacency or what it is, but they're just, I think there is a big need for somebody else to enter the market. Bigger than that, though, and maybe it's a topic for another discussion for us another day. I think bigger than that, though, is the discussion about breaking and box prices and how all of this stuff, it's not Panini dictating the price of all this. Like, you look at something like Prism that came out recently, those boxes from Panini were like $275 a box from Panini. The minute they hit the distributor and or the store, they're over $2,000. So there's a problem within that system that needs to get fixed. And because it's not coming from the card manufacturer, yet everyone blames them.
And guys, let that sink in. So I'm not a soccer guy, but you comment on this, guys. I mean, Andrew, you were in the group. So my local card store got a direct from Topps Bundesliga Chrome from last year, the one with a Haaland rookie in it. And he charged me exactly what Topps, he wasn't doing soccer, so he charged me exactly what Topps was charging, didn't mark it up at all. And I sold those boxes to people in our group for $150 a box. And at the time, they were selling for like $600 a box. And I'm like, I'm not marking it up to the guys here in the group. It'll cover my shipping, it'll cover costs and the whole
Absolutely.
deal. And I can open a box or two myself, and everybody's great. And those boxes are huge now. You talk about this crate, and so you're right. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. It's not Panini and Topps. They're charging what they're charging, and it's not a lot of money. It's like 10% of what these cards are going for. It is. Now. That markup is the distributors, it's the stores, it's the breakers, and it's very important.
What about the auction that they do? What about that weird auction?
So the Dutch auction. So that's usually just for first of the line boxes. But yeah, I mean those are. I would venture to say most of those boxes are not being bought by retail buyers. But if people
bots.
did not, it's bots. But if people didn't buy them, then the thing wouldn't sell out. They're starting at a number, it doesn't sell, and then it's at a point in time where a group of people on GameStop, Reddit say, okay, guys, we're all jumping in now. The bot is hitting it now because this is where we can resell it at more money. John has shined a huge light on a lot of problems in the hobby, a lot of issues that are there. That guys, we're not going to fix them, but at least it's smart to be mindful of them, right? Be aware. Yep. So, John, I pitched to you an April Fool's Day joke that didn't go well. It fell to number 2. It wasn't your grading company. I'm glad you went with that one. But I said that what you should have done was you should have announced on April 1st that you were selling all of your cardboard and changing your name to John, the basketball NFT guy.
Yes.
So, what do you think about that?
Top shot guy.
Are you in that at all?
I'm not. I know you're in it, right? So you're pretty big, but
for now.
But it's just. To me, there's something about having the card and looking at it that I've always felt. So it's not my realm. Ironically, I had talked about adding to the Grading Co. site. NFT grading was going to be a service we were going to offer.
Awesome.
You want one of 50 NFT? Well, you might have the best one.
That's right. Exactly.
We analyzed the code behind the blockchain.
That'd be
differentiate.
fantastic. That would be
Yeah.
great.
So
So you're not jumping into those just yet, huh?
I'm not, it's like the physical goods. This is like, it brings me back to the childhood. It's what I always had. I love that aspect of it. And it's what I know, and I think that we can't say that enough in anything anyone puts money into. You do not put money into something you do not understand. Doesn't matter what industry it's in. Like the number one, like if you get anything out of this podcast today, don't put your money into something you don't understand. Don't do it just because someone else told you to. Do it because you like it. And I know, Cage, you've had great success with the NFT stuff, with Top Shot, because you look at it and you understand what you're going into and you're having fun doing it. And so that's the equivalent of me back in the 90s with this stuff going. I don't care if I have it for forever. I had fun doing it. I enjoy it. It brings you enjoyment as you're in it. So that's what I say to people, like, just do it because you love it and do it because you understand it.
Yeah. Well, John, it's an important point. And guys, listen to what John's saying, right? So I'm sitting here, wow, this he knows what he's doing. Why isn't he John the every type of card guy? Because think of how much more money he can be making because he knows what he's doing in baseball. He would know what he's doing if he expanded out to hockey or Pokemon or whatever it is. But I think the reason why he's able to be as confident in the moves that he's making is because he's not a jack of all trades. He's an ace of the one that he's selected. He is the basketball card guy. And there's some confidence that goes with being able to know what you're doing, knowing the moves you're making. So, think about that when you're on Instagram and you're seeing somebody post about the Ansu Fati, or this guy's the next, Messi, or, look at Mason Greenwood or whatever. You don't have to spread yourself that thin. You don't always have to chase the shiny objects just because somebody's telling you to do it. Do your research and get good at something, right? I mean, John, is that, that fair?
100%. Yep. Yeah.
Luka Nation, we could talk to John for hours. This has been, I'm appreciative of you sharing your time with us. I hope we have you back on. So let me throw this on. Guys, Luka Nation, we don't ask you guys for anything. Please go visit BasketballCardGuy.com and check out John's inventory. He's got some of the merch available for Grading Co., the hat.
I have an apron available. Someone suggested that.
Apron.
Yeah, so when you're encasing your own cards, you don't get wet.
I need a specially slabbed piece of penne. You sell that on there, I'm buying it.
I should put that up.
That's great stuff. Listen,
I appreciate it, guys.
BasketballCardGuy.com. Check it out. It's right here. BasketballCardGuy.com. Take a look. And John, thank you. We appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it, guys. And feel free, anyone that's listening, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram via DMs. I'm Basketball Card Guy on Instagram as well. Like, happy to help collectors and, investors as well, hobbyists, people that are involved with this, getting their feet wet or just coming back to it after years. Like I said, it's a passion of mine. I answer every DM. I answer every email that I get on the website too. But just happy to be a resource.
And what day is your Q&A show when you go live?
So I don't have a standard day yet for it. So I've been doing it kind of haphazardly throughout. I'm going to try and do it once every week or once every 2 weeks. I'm trying to schedule like a good time. It's been like once every 2 weeks now, usually on a weekday. I used to have a standing Saturday night show that I did. We called it the Saturday Live Night instead of the Saturday Night Live. Just been shifting that around now. So I'll definitely announce it on the website and on my Instagram as we've got more scheduled. But thanks, guys.
And if we could help you with anything, please reach out. We'd love to be a part of anything that you're building.